Hi everybody, I'm Oliver Hines, aka Dominos from metalunderground.com, and I'm really happy to say indeed that we're here with Karl and Steve from Threshold. There you go.
Hi.
There, good. Obviously this is the tour where you're playing Legends of the Shires in full, which is quite a brave step. A lot of bands don't really, either as well as the new album's been received, they don't really like to bring the whole thing out, especially a double album. So why the decision to really go for it this time?
I think the point when we were writing the album, I spoke to Richard and we had about an hour's worth of music, which is kind of fairly normal for an album length, and I just said that I hadn't finished writing. Steve had a song to come as well, and we thought, well, let's just keep going, and it ended up at the point where we had about 90 minutes almost, and we said, well, the amount of music we've got will just fit onto a double LP, which is what we were allowed with Nuclear Blast. And it ended up on a double CD as well. And at the time, we thought, well, we've got this kind of concept. We want this album to tie together with a theme all the way through, both musically and lyrically. And we kind of decided, I think, pretty much at that time, that we'd try and play the whole album live as well.
Okay.
One of those grand ideas that sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, you're lucky then.
Until
it was
you
good.
come to rehearsal and then you start thinking, oh, this is a bit tricky. And but that one, we probably wouldn't bother doing that normally. It's quite tricky. And then there's also the structure of the set live, where it's difficult because you start with an acoustic piece of music at the beginning, very quiet.
And you go straight into Small Dark Lines.
And I think it just took us, didn't it? It took us a couple of gigs, didn't it? Just to get used to the transitions.
The dynamic is different to kind of how we would have done it if we were just doing a sort of a standard gig, you know. Small Dark Lines would have come at the end of the show, but now it's right at the beginning.
And then just linking those quiet pieces into the louder songs. Whether there was a gap where people might or might not clap because it's such a strange ending, and just how to do that. It took two gigs, didn't it, just to get it all sorted out, and just made a few adjustments, and then it started working.
Well,
it's definitely a different dynamic to playing a normal set.
I mean, obviously when I saw you on the boat, it was you finished with Small Dark Lines both times, I think. So it's interesting to almost hear you open with it this time. But it's I mean, you did the poll on Facebook the other day, what's favourite song from the album? And I wrote best song of last year, let alone the album, you know. So apparently it just about won, but
I see.
Man Who Saw Through Time is a close second.
But too extreme,
yeah, a little bit, but within the same mould, if you like. It's almost that happy medium between Anathema and Queensryche, I don't know.
Interesting combination,
Yeah, a little bit, but both very intelligent and works good. But you mentioned it's a concept album, both musically and lyrically. I know a few people have looked at the title and gone, "Oh, Lord of the Rings," but it's got nothing to do with Lord of the Rings.
No, I mean, I wasn't a lyric writer on this, writing music, but Steve was writing some lyrics. Maybe he'll elaborate.
I think Richard's idea of the album it was about a kind of a nation trying to find itself, its position in the world, but also reflects on a kind of an individual trying to do the same thing. So that's kind of what you see, you know, in the songs. That individual is being focused on. So so in a way, I suppose my song was it followed that theme as well. So there's a bit of kind of political leanings towards what's going on in the UK at the moment. Brexit.
It was kind of, I think the idea was to sort of find a dual theme for most songs. So, for instance, State of Independence could be looked at as possibly about sort of the UK leaving the EU, or else it could be about somebody going through a divorce on a different level. So the idea was to get two different stories that could run through the songs. And some are more obvious than others, so I guess you draw your own conclusions with that.
Yeah, I mean that's the best way to be lyrically. It can mean different things to different people. Then, so.
I think that's good because if you come across as if you're preaching, nobody ever takes that sort of thing very well. And I think it's better if you can leave them loose enough so people can create their own story to some extent with the lyrics as well.
I think it reflects what's going on at the time. You know, in the world, you know, particularly with the UK, I suppose. That idea of the Shires is a very kind of UK sort of centric thing, isn't it? So it's sort of like reflects that.
We did it a long time before Middle Earth did, so could we have some recognition, please?
I think there's one line in the last song in Swallow that just sort of makes fun of the fact people might think it's about
something about rings, and it's sort of like you think, oh,
rings and things.
Rings and
things. There's just one line to sort of cheat people.
You've mentioned Brexit a few times there. Is it something brought up in the album merely as a reference point, or is it something you have a feeling about one way towards the other? I would imagine with 5 people,
probably
it's going to be different.
everybody has a feeling about that, and I think it's probably, you know, it's never really good to force your opinion on other people. It's one of my sort of pet hates when you're constantly nagging away. You know, I've got my opinions, and so does Steve, and you know, I think we're quite similar the way we think about that. But I mean, I recognise that, you know, the whole thing is, you know, the 50-50. So. Yeah, and in many cases, I think previous referendums that have ever come about should have had usually something like a 60-40 split before they'd accept. So, you know, the whole thing's, you know, whichever way you think, it's just caused trouble. So,
absolutely, yeah. But then
there could never be a good solution, even if you have the power to create, you know, whatever situation they want in the government. There can't be a good solution when half the population are against you, which is either way will be the problem. So. It was just Cameron's kind of dodge to get out of a difficult situation, wasn't it? So,
yeah, basically that's what I thought.
Selfish, and then he buggered off afterwards.
And now he's making money out of it, good for him. But it fits in well with the parallel stories, if you like, in between both as a country and as a man. In a way, it's something that's supposed to have created independence, and it kind of turned people against each other. And that can work very much in your personal life as well. There'll be things you'll strive towards, and you'll drive yourself mad doing it.
You sound like you're ready to write a song for us. You've already got the dual sort of story going on.
It'd just be me and Joe writing songs about Ian Holloway. I wouldn't get excited. but obviously this is Glynn's second stint with the band now, and it's been some considerable time since he was last in Threshold. When you were, after Damon went, why was the decision to approach Glynn rather than hold auditions?
I think when Damien started talking about the fact he was thinking about leaving the band, I mean, Richard and I sort of looked at each other and we both thought about Glynn, because when we'd written the album we just thought we needed maybe a slightly rougher kind of voice for this music, because we wanted to write something more progressive, but we didn't want to lose the sort of heaviness of the band, and some of the songs were softer. And it just suits Glynn's voice. I think if it had a clear tone like Damien's, maybe songs like Small Dark Lines might not have worked so well. They might have been a little bit sort of poppy or something, I don't know. But with his voice, it took on our sound perfectly, and we knew he was the person we wanted back if Damien was going to leave. So we just sort of immediately contacted him and were hoping he'd say yes. And he said he'd been waiting for us to contact him for nearly 10 years. So.
Well, I'm glad he did, because he sounded amazing on this album, and he sounded great live as well. So.
Yeah, I know it also solved our problem with Pete, who sort of moved on, in so much as Glynn was able to play guitar pretty well. So I mean, you know, he always was. Right? I remember back in whenever 90s when he was in the band before, he'd make his own demos, and I said, "Play guitar, man." Oh, that was me. You know, it was always good stuff. So I knew he could play, and it was just a case of whether he'd be happy to sing and play at the same time. But it's not about the singing and playing at the same time. It's the amount of stuff he has to learn is the problem. I think we've got him to. I think he must have learned nearly 5 hours of material already in the short time he's been back in the band. At least 4.
Yeah, and the lyrics aren't easy. They don't sort of roll off the tongue. They're sort of quite.
So then, on top of all those lyrics, which are not simple, I've been sending him videos with, here's the guitar parts, but I can't program a harmony on my Kemper for that, you know, so you'll have to play that part, you know.
I think it's a testament to Glynn. I mean, he's a very talented guy. He's very sort of subtle about it, and you know, he doesn't really sort of shout about it, but he's got a lot going on there, and more to come, I think.
Yeah, luckily things don't faze him. He doesn't doesn't get overwhelmed by things. So you know, if it's something that's a bit too much to learn in a short period of time, he just says, I'll have to leave that till next time. And he's doing a fair bit of guitar now. Probably about half the set, I think. So.
Yeah, it's really, really great. Yeah.
Should be sending some more videos shortly.
Excellent. Speaking of videos, you've recently released the live album, 2017. Didn't need a hint for that. I've not had a chance to have a look at it yet. Is that the Legends of the Shire in full live, or is it just simply a
it's
live
from the
album?
tour, the last tour we did, which was how many songs did we play?
On that album?
Yeah.
I think isn't there 10 on that album, is it?
No, 14 on the album, but we played maybe something like half the songs
on
on that tour.
Yeah, it's probably,
So it's kind of, I think there were 10 songs on the live album, and that's largely based around Legends of the Shires. I mean, just 2 of those songs are about 25 minutes. Lost in Translation and Man Who Saw Through Time. So it is largely based around that album, but not the whole of the album.
Okay, cool.
And in fact, that's something that we weren't quite sure. We were thinking of recording DVD for this tour, but when we looked at it, we know that Nuclear Blast probably only give us a chance to make 1 DVD in the near future, and they're quite sort of limited on those things now.
Yeah.
So we thought, you know, with the kind of people, maybe places like South America and Australia that never get a chance to see us, we thought they'd probably appreciate a DVD that had a kind of wider spectrum and balance of all the albums. So we'll probably do that on the next tour.
Good. I
mean, that'll give us a chance to bring old stuff in and you know, a good mix of songs. And this tour it's quite sort of special for us because this probably will be the only time, apart from one show next year in Norway, that we'll play the whole of the album.
Okay.
So it really was for the people that wanted to see that. We sort of let them know this is going to be a special thing, and you know, we're going to do it. And
that's very good then.
it's going to be very hard to do again because the album takes 90 minutes to play.
Yeah.
You only have to say a couple of short phrases in between songs, and you're up to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So that's just the album, and then you know a couple of encores, and you've got up to about an hour and 45 at least.
Very good. No, it'd be great for, like you say, for the fans that don't get to see it that much. And, that's great. But as we mentioned before we started filming, I saw you at 70,000 Tons of Metal, and I had to go and see the second set because the first one was so good. Not blowing smoke up your ass, I loved it. But how was it for you, darling?
Yeah, well, it's the second time we played there, so it was, we kind of knew what to expect a bit more. You know, it's like the first time you're kind of like thinking, how's it all work? And so it was, you know, I think playing the theatre. We played in the theatre.
You played the theatre and the
ice rink.
Ice rink, that's right. Yeah. First time we played at 70,000, it was in a smaller cafe, sort of like.
Oh, the lounge.
Bar. The lounge.
Yeah, if you're not right at the front, you can't see anything.
Yeah. But that was actually quite a good show for us. It went quite well, and then this time round the theatre gig was also really good. You know, it's just nice playing on that big stage, and you know.
It's not exactly a stressful gig. You probably realise, you know, you get about, I don't know, maybe one set of 45 minutes, another one of an hour, I think. That's over 5 days, and the rest of the time is free. You know?
The rest of the time
go for a swim or whatever.
Spend on deck 11, you know, stuff in our faces.
Yes, all that free food,
How many desserts shall I have this time?
Young was particularly pleased, wasn't he? He refers to that kind of gig as deck 11 rather than 70,000 because of the food's so good, so it suits him. You know? He normally struggles at gigs, you know. Further east we go in Europe, he's a vegan.
Oh, I see.
And things get pretty bad. But when we go to 70,000 tons of metal, you know, he's pretty pleased.
He has a huge choice.
You know,
He's a happy man.
See, I'm the opposite. I was having burgers for breakfast. My boss is from Maryland. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm in America. I'm having a burger for breakfast." It's also, speaking while we're talking of albums, it's the 25th anniversary of Wounded Land. There you go then. It kind of answers my question.
We're celebrating that by playing no songs from it. So.
Oh, there you go then. But, nowadays, though, there seems to be a thing when there's an anniversary for a band every other week. It seems.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like the decision to go back and revisit the albums in full is maybe kind of played out gimmick now? Or?
I think it would be, you know, we wouldn't have a career anymore. Every tour we do, we'd be doing an old album again because you just repeat all your albums. So. Yeah. I mean, we have thought about that sort of thing, but Glynn did the original tour for Wounded Land anyway, because Damien left as soon as the album was recorded. So he's already done that. We thought, it's just coming up to 2019, and that'll be 25 years of Psychedelicatessen. So we'll probably, we played 2 songs from that on the last tour, and we'll probably play maybe one of the longer ones on the next tour to sort of celebrate. We did think about the idea of playing the whole album, but then we thought, I think in April or May we've got to go to Norway and we've got to play the whole of Legends of the Shires, and then we've got to play a best of the old albums. And we thought, if we had Psychedelicatessen as well, that would be 6 hours of music to learn lyrics to. We thought that might be just a bit of a stretch, so we thought we'll learn one maybe from that album, possibly Into the Light, see how we go, and that'll be enough to celebrate it. And,
absolutely,
And then, there's plenty more anniversaries coming up. After that comes Extinct Instinct, and then Clone, and then God knows what. But there's plenty, aren't there?
There you go.
So
celebrating the first anniversary of Legends of the Shires, deal with it. And
we'll see what happens. You know, if say Hypothetical comes up for an anniversary or something, and that was the first album that really changed for us, and we moved on to a new label, and things got a bit bigger, and a lot of people know that as the beginning of Threshold. Maybe we'll do something like that. I don't know. We haven't thought about it yet, but I don't think we'll be celebrating every album. I think that's when the band's career is sort of. They're really popular, but their career is kind of over.
Yeah.
You know, when people they bring a new album, they say, "Oh, thanks for that, but can you play this?"
Yeah.
And I don't think we're quite at that stage yet. We're creating kind of our best music at the moment, so for us anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this it seems to have been like a huge album, at least in terms of progressive rock and progressive metal. It's not always a.
I can understand it for some. I don't know. I think Iron Maiden were doing that sort of thing, and I understand they had completely classic albums back in the day, and people want to hear those. But our classic albums are only just started to come.
Yeah.
Just sort of got to that stage. So I mean, I think we'd rather be creating something new. It's just Threshold's always been about moving on, which is sort of a progressive ethos. Really, it's about creating something new. It's never about revisiting the past for me. No. That's what progressive means to me anyway.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean regurgitating Genesis or something else. No. It's the freedom to create something new that hasn't been done, different structures, different melodies, all sorts of things. So.
Absolutely, yeah. That's cool. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, look forward to seeing it.